Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Valentine Ngwa. I am your webinar moderator for tonight. Welcome to our 24th CamDoc webinar discussing with the community. Apart from being a moderator, I'm also a physician working in Mid-Yorkshire in United Kingdom as an elderly care and acute medicine physician, and also a researcher in aging. I would be supported by two co-moderators who are here. Dr. Anam Bene, who is a specialist chemical pathologist and also a medical examiner. And I've got Dr. Mafo Former, who is a physician and drug toxicologist and working with regulatory affairs specialists. They both will be supporting me in moderating this webinar for tonight. Now, we have, as I said before, this is our 24th webinar we're running, and we have been trying to look at topics which we think that will be more interesting to our community and have a discussion. And most times we'll be discussing things which are purely medical, but we thought sometimes the things that are actually more important, which also has the medical connotations, are not medical from the origin, but end up being medical. So let's look at something which we felt that actually affects all of us, and we thought of resilience in these difficult times. And why is that important? It is important because we felt that there's a lot of adversity that's going on. I mean, if you're alive, you're going to face adversity one day or the other. It could be the loss of a close one. It could be a serious illness. It could be an accident. It could be just the day-to-day living, the stress of day-to-day living. And we are aware that if people do not cope with those day-to-day stresses, they could actually adapt negative coping strategies which are more detrimental to health. And so we thought of having this conversation and seeing how we can, you know, in both ways, try to understand how we can foster this resilience amongst us. And what do we mean by resilience? Is that ability to adapt or manage significant stresses or trauma when they do arise. And you're not just managing them, but you're also growing from them. So which means you respond to the stress, you recover from it if it does knock you down, and then you grow. It is not just as simple as saying that I can manage it, but you're actually using it as a growing phenomenon. And this resilience actually started from child developmental psychology, when it was noted that some children, after going through childhood trauma, maybe parental death or domestic violence, some children actually rise up and grow, while others falter and fail and develop negative coping strategies like drug abuse and stuff like that. And that is where the whole thing came up, which has now led to resilience at every stage of life. Because as you would imagine, there are everyday issues all over the world, not just in the West. I mean, nowadays you were hearing the migrant crisis, the riots, which somehow has a racist tendency towards it, which means therefore that we're now seeing an increased racism in society. I know we've had this conversation before on this webinar, but coping with those persistent stresses could be quite difficult for somebody who hasn't got the right mechanism to deal with them. We also know that just a simple thing like a fall in somebody could be an aspect that the person could be dead within a year, or something like somebody to a spouse, let's say a couple who've been quite close for quite a while. If one of them passes away, we know that more than 30% chance that the other one will pass away in the next 1 year, because they haven't got the coping mechanisms and a lot of other things. So we thought we'll have this conversation and see how we can make sense out of it to foster this resilience amongst us. Now, resilience in itself has got a lot of sub-categorizations that you can do. It could be financial resilience, it could be physiological, physical, emotional. But today we're going to limit it to those three aspects: the physical health aspect, the psychological and spiritual aspect, and the social aspect. And with me tonight, I'm going to have 3 expert panelists who will be able to do justice to the 3 sections of these discussions. That said, I'm happy to bring our first panelist for our webinar. We know that physical health is a very important aspect of us coping with adversity. The reason being, if you happen to meet any stressful situation and your health is not strong enough, it's a good chance that you could deteriorate significantly. If you have any stressful situations, there's a way your body responds to it. And our panelist to talk about the physical part of this is Dr. Linda Bello, who, as you all, most of you will know, she is the chairperson of CamDocUK, but she's also a dedicated portfolio GP working as a salaried GP at the Colchester medical practice. She also does private work with EMED and is a committed GP trainer and serves as a medical examiner. Now, this is the second medical examiner we'll have on here today, so we're safe. She, beyond her clinical role, she's also the board member of the Royal College of General Practitioners in the Essex faculty. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Linda Bello. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much, Uncle Val, for that very kind introduction. And I'm already going to apologize because I will be calling Dr. Ngwa Uncle Val throughout this presentation, just because that's what we all call him. So I'm just going to get my slides up, which were just here a minute ago. I'm going to share it again. And there it is. And we will just get that onto slide mode so that I can continue. There we go. So you've already heard about me, and those are my qualifications and a bit about what I do. So when we think about resilience, we often focus on the mind. And as Dr. Ngwa was saying, true resilience actually begins in the body. Our physical health is the foundation that allows us to cope, to adapt, and even to thrive in the face of adversity. So in the next few minutes, I'll be taking you through how our bodies respond to stress, the toll it can take, and most importantly, the practical steps that we can take to strengthen our resilience. So what am I going to be taking you through? So this is a brief overview. So I'm going to be talking to you about the impact of stress on the body and briefly touching on the weathering hypothesis, how chronic stress contributes to disease, preventive measures, so nutrition, exercise, screening, chronic disease management, the role of health screening in early detection, how good management of chronic illness supports resilience, and just some take-home messages for you. So what is the link between stress and the body? So please just think of the neuroendocrine system as the body's stress switch, and it's designed to flick on in emergencies. But if it never gets turned off, it starts to burn out the wiring. And that's where the long-term health problems come in. So you can see that described in the little kind of cartoons I've got on the screen at the moment. Tell you more about it. So the neuroendocrine system is how the brain and the body talk to each other using hormones. So when the brain senses stress or danger, it tells certain glands, like the adrenal glands, to release stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. I'm sure you've all heard about some of these hormones. And these hormones affect the whole body by raising the heart rate, blood pressure, and blood pressure. And that's really useful because that helps us to react quickly. And this is perfectly healthy in short bursts. So for instance, if you're being chased by a lion, some of us going on safari soon, if that happens, we're going to need that, right, to escape the danger. But if the stress is constant and this same hormones keep flooding the body over time, this always on state will wear the body down. And this then contributes to problems such as high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and weakened immunity. So let me tell you a little bit about this weathering hypothesis. And it was actually coined by a lady called Dr. Arlene Geronimus. Yeah, very strange name, right? But she's actually a Black lady, and she's an American public health researcher and professor at the University of Michigan School. And in 1992, she introduced this term weathering hypothesis. And in her words, she said, populations that experience chronic adversity show evidence of early health deterioration, a process I call weathering. And in this paper in 1992, she argued that the cumulative, so the additional impact of chronic social, economic, and political adversity, which include racism and poverty, does unfortunately cause a premature biological aging and higher rates of chronic illness, particularly among Black women. So when I read that, I was like, okay, what can we do to kind of try and reduce the things that we can control, so our stress levels. So in summary, weathering hypothesis is basically what I was telling you before: sustained exposure to adversity, which then wears down your body and then leads to earlier onset of chronic conditions such as diabetes and hypertension. And unfortunately, in Black populations and ethnic minorities, we already have family history of that. So that's like a cumulative additional effect. So what can we do to prevent this? So simple enough. We have these 4 pillars. So nutrition, everything begins with nutrition, healthy, balanced diet, what we're putting in the body, exercise, regular physical activity. And those of you that are regular webinar attendees would have seen our webinars on both nutrition and exercise. And if you didn't, or you want a refresher, please may I ask you to go to our YouTube channel or through our website, www.camdocuk.org, to see the top 2, because I shall only, for the sake of time, be talking about number 3 and number 4, which is what I deal with. It's my bread and butter as a GP. So starting with physical health screening. So in the UK, these are the sort of health screening that you have readily available. So the first and foremost is your NHS health check, which is for over 40s, the cervical smear, the mammograms, bowel cancer, which is also a form of cancer screening, PSA testing, which is an informed choice for men, and other checks that you can have when you go to your GP. So let me talk a little bit more about those. So the NHS health check, as I said before, free checkup for adults done at your GP surgery. So by the time you've got to 40, you'll be getting a letter or a text saying, please come and have your NHS health check. Do not ignore it. And you can have that every 5 years. What does it do, or what do we do there? We're assessing your risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, kidney disease. You'll come and see a healthcare assistant. It's usually about 20 to 30 minutes. Your blood pressure will be taken. You'll have a finger prick test that will tell us about your cholesterol almost immediately. We'll check your weight and your height. We'll ask you these important lifestyle questions. Do you drink? Do you smoke? If you have any issues with that, we can help you give it up. And then you could also be telling the nurse or healthcare assistant that you see about your family history. And if at that point they felt that you needed more than just the health checkup, they will then signpost you to one of us in the surgery, one of your GPs. So it's really important because it helps to spot early risk and prevent illness. We pick up a lot of prediabetes, a lot of high cholesterol, a lot of blood pressure. So it's really important that if you haven't had that done, please do. The next thing is the cervical screening smear test, or pap smear, which women or people with a cervix are offered routinely. So you should have got, if you're a lady between these ages or someone who has a cervix, you should have already received these. You get the letter directly from the screening service. It's every 3 years. If you haven't got that, your GP will also be reminding you. And what is also very important about this test, apart from the fact that we take some cells, some scrapings from the cells and send off, we also do a test for HPV, human papillomavirus, which can cause cervical cancer. And if we know that you've got that, then the body will get rid of it, but you would have more frequent cervical smears until your body has got rid of it. This is done at the GP surgery usually, or if there's an issue and you're really struggling and you know, we have had some cases, then you can be referred to the hospital if needed. The whole point of this is that when we do detect, if we do detect any abnormal cells, then it can prevent most cervical cancer. So really, really important. Next thing is the breast screening, again, towards women, and it's this is for women aged 50 to 71, and essentially it's an X-ray of your breasts called a mammogram. A lot of the times when I see my female patients, I'm asking them, please check your breasts at least once a month, know how they feel. You know, if they feel abnormal, if they feel any lumps, then of course, when they come back to us, if I feel the same lump or we have any concerns, we can refer out of this program to the hospital. And if they're younger than that, younger than 50, they may have an ultrasound instead of a mammogram. The most important thing is that this mammogram does pick up cancers that you cannot feel with by yourself, you know. And I have a personal case of somebody who just went and had her mammogram aged 50, and she did, she you know, I say she's a really good girl. She had her mammogram, and unfortunately it picked up cancer, but because she went early, she was able to have treatment, life-saving treatment. So really, really important. If you get to 71 and you think, oh, I'm still worried, you can call your local breast screening team, and they will be happy to request one for you. Next one is the bowel cancer screening, and this is actually a home test kit that is sent to you from age 56, so male and female, and it's been expanded to 50. Essentially, a small kit comes to your house. All you need to do is take a tiny bit of poo, smear it on there, and what it is checking for is hidden blood that you cannot see with your naked eye, because of course, if you see blood in your poo with your naked eye, you would be coming to your doctor anyway. It's really important because blood in the stool that you can't see can be a sign of bowel cancer, but it can also be a sign of other things. So if that is abnormal, then they would offer you a further test like a colonoscopy, but sometimes it's not always a colonoscopy. If you can't tolerate that, then sometimes a CT colonograph is done. So please, if you're over 50 on this call, over 56, and you've had that, please don't ignore it. If you've thrown it away, call the bowel cancer screening team, and one will be sent back to you. PSA testing is not actually a national screening program. It's not nationally on the program because what is PSA? It's called prostate-specific antigen. It's a hormone produced by the prostate. Now, it can help to detect prostate cancer early, but it's not always reliable because it can be positive and you don't have cancer. It's just because your prostate is enlarged, or it can be negative and you still have cancer. So if you feel that you're at a risk of having prostate cancer, you're a man here above 50 or even less than 50, and there's a family history of that, is especially common in Black men, do come and see your GP, and we can arrange that test for you, but that will be alongside other investigations. If you're a man above 50 and you're having urinary symptoms and things that you're not, you know, waking up at night to pee a few times, peeing a lot during the day, problems with the flow, problems with the frequency, please come and speak to us about it. And by us, I mean your GP. So we're always happy, no matter the age, should be the take home for this, to discuss any issues around this regarding the PSA. So number 4 is managing. So we're talking about screening. Now we're going to talk about chronic disease management. And again, as a GP, this is what I do every day, you know, sort of chronic disease management. So we're trying to control blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol as sort of main illnesses. Of course, we've got asthma, COPD, and other things. But in the context of this talk, I'll focus on those 3. And when you come in for your sort of medication review, because we review everybody that is on medication at least once a year, sometimes 6 monthly, we're checking, are you taking your medication? Because unfortunately, some of us are not very good at taking our medications every day. And And when we do that, we're checking your blood pressure. If you're on blood pressure medication, is your blood pressure controlled? Because there's no point being on medication if the blood pressure is not controlled. How can you help yourself? So it's helpful if you have a blood pressure machine at home, especially if you've got a diagnosis of high blood pressure. But even if you don't, it's really important that you, like we say, know your number, know that your blood pressure is fine, you know, and if you're able to make sure, even if you have one of these illnesses, that you make sure it's in control, come for all your reviews, and have a good lifestyle in terms of alcohol, smoking, good diet, then you can, even if you have one of these diseases, you can still be resilient by preventing decompensation. So an example, as I was saying to you, is, you know, this one of my patients diagnosed with high blood pressure. She decided that she was going to start to exercise. What was the best thing for her to do? Instead of hobby, walking the dog every day, she decided that she was going to walk the dog. She was walking the dog twice a day. She lost a lot of weight. She looked at her diet. She reduced her salt intake. She came and saw me regularly. And actually, I reduced, she was on 2 antihypertensives, and I reduced it to 1 because of those things. So, and she was taking her medication every day. And because she's done that, she has reduced her risk of having a complication from high blood pressure, which number 1 is stroke, heart failure, heart attack. So physical resilience is basically about us preparing our body before any kind of storms. So what are my take-home messages for you today? Stress takes a physical toll. It's called the weathering hypothesis. Prevention is resilience. Screening, lifestyle, monitoring, know your numbers. Chronic disease doesn't mean that you lack resilience, that you're not going to be strong. You can, if you make sure that you manage these conditions, that they call strength. Invest in your physical health, and then you can invest. That means you'll invest in resilience. So resilience is not about avoiding the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain with a body strong enough to carry you through. Here are some of my references that I use for this talk, and I'd like to thank you all for listening attentively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bello. That was a stellar presentation. Thank you so much. And I can see it generated some interest on the, somebody's been documenting on the chat forum, but I've got a question for you. You've outlined beautifully what the NHS plan is. We don't know. I mean, we got audience from all across the world, and different countries have different plans for health monitoring and preventive strategies. For somebody in Cameroon, where we haven't got all these NHS plans for forties and stuff, what would you advise, you know, for chronic disease monitoring and prevention?
Yes, and I'm going to steal this phrase, and a lot of us that were at the conference in Cameroon and have seen our one of our speakers, Boniface, and he says, know your numbers first and foremost. If you don't know that there's an issue with you, you're not going to go and seek help. So in less structured health systems, unfortunately, like Cameroon can be, I'd say, know your numbers in terms of your blood pressure. You know, a lot of us, you go to Cameroon, a lot of people have nice phones, one phone, 2 phones, 3 phones even. Please invest in a blood pressure machine if you can. Know what your blood pressure is, okay? Monitor your weight. So a lot of us should have some scales at home. Know what your waist size is, okay? Now, if you then start having any kind of warning signs like headaches or chest pain, of course, you're going to be going to see a doctor in Cameroon. But it's really about you in these sort of settings. We have to focus on prevention, right? Because even if you might find out that you have high blood pressure, maybe you might not be able to afford the medication. So start by your diet. Don't put a lot of salt in your diet. Do exercise if you can, you know, so prevention, sleep well, eat a balanced diet. We're very fortunate in Cameroon. We've got very good access to good food at a good price. Stay active. If you can, and I know that nicotine is very addictive, so to any people who haven't started smoking in Cameroon, don't even start. Just avoid it at all costs. And of course, booze is a way of us lifting up our spirits. But unfortunately, excess alcohol does lead to a lot of things, you know, that can sometimes be irreversible. So please, you know, that's what I would say, you know, start by making sure that you don't fall ill, you know, by prevention. Prevention is going to be key in Cameroon. And then if you're fortunate enough to go somewhere, to be able to go and see a doctor and they diagnose you with a condition, you know, blood pressure, you know, and things, and you can have a health check every couple of years, or when you have any problems, then please do so in Cameroon, because we have brilliant, excellent doctors in Cameroon and they can look after you.
Thank you very much. That's very beautifully explained. Now we will move on. We know, we were talking about adversities, the resilience in terms of adversities, and we know that adversity does play in the mind, and sometimes it's how you deal with it in the mind. As I say, the mind is the biggest place where disease tend to manifest. And so speaking with us today will be somebody who has expertise of talking about the mind. So we're now in the psychological and spiritual realm of resilience. And I'm happy to bring Dr. Bansika Maimo, whom we popularly call Coach B. I'm sure most of you would have met him before. He does the Mindset Boulevard. He's a strategic interventionist and a consensus builder, both in the personal and corporate space. Has a background in biochemical sciences, biochemistry, and medical lab, but he's also got expertise in bioinformatics, solution support architect, and he is quite an expert, I would say, in community building, deep psychology. I mean, I've heard him speak many times, in deep spirituality, and recently he's got a certification in counseling. So there's nobody who is more qualified at this point to talk about the mind and resilience as Mr. Bansika Maimo. Mr. Maimo, please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, panelists. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that sterling introduction from Koban, and thank you for that sterling presentation, Dr. Bello. It's a very important topic, and I'm going to be focusing on the personal side of resilience. Dr. Bello talked about the clinical side. My able colleague, Auntie Evelyn, I call her, will be talking about the social side of things. I'll be focusing on you and I, the individual, and what's going on within us. So as I say that, I'm just looking to share my screen. So like I said, we will be looking at the personal side of resilience, how we build it. I start by saying that the best things in life are always free. Now notice there's a certain dynamic to things. If you want to wield real power and authority, you serve, don't you? So too, if you want to get, you give. Because it is actually in giving that we see. Now, so if you want to develop resilience, and by the way, resilience is a way of life. It's not a means to an end. It is not something that you take out on a Wednesday or on a Friday during an emergency. It's a habit that you cultivate from the time you wake up from bed to the time that you go to sleep. If you want that to be a part of you, you want to be doing the right thing for the right reasons at all times, circumstances irrespective. But why is that? Because to do the right thing for the right reasons at the right time, you have to show up as your genuine, true self. You have to bring out your true identity. You need to be vulnerable. You need to know what your gifts, your abilities, your capabilities, and your strengths are. You need to play to them. And where you have got growth areas, your weaknesses, you need to be alert and open to learning from them. When you do that in a cycle, you slowly find purpose. And when you find purpose, you become unstoppable. Look at that plant. It was once a seed. It never had to go to school to figure out how to generate its roots, how to develop shoots, and how to bear fruit. All it needed was a fertile environment. And the rest just came naturally to it. Vitality flowed through it, and it expressed itself. The mind is your environment. It is the soil on which you sow seeds of these thoughts and your mental processes, the words that run on the runway of your mind, will generate the environment that becomes resourceful, and conducive for you, or toxic and detrimental to you. Now, what does it mean to do the right thing for the right reasons? It's always easy to talk about these things, but let's actually look at what they translate into in real life. We all have to work. I notice that when you work to serve, the work that you do becomes its own. You would happily do it for free. Nobody needs to ask you. It brings with it a sense of joy and fulfillment. And at the end of it, you get a paycheck or some remuneration for the work that you did. And that gives you happiness. So there's a difference between fulfillment, which is a function of what's going on within you, and happiness, which is a function of what is happening outside of you. Something needs to happen for you to be happy. We live in a world as well, which conditions us to aspire towards happiness. The marketing machine sells you stuff, tells you the right place to live, the right kind of car to drive, the right way to walk, the right way to talk, the right friends to have, or who to high class, of course. And that's what's sold. Give a practical example, one which is more relatable. Those of you who have kids, now we all know that your child will pee on you, poo on you, will pee on you, poo on you, puke on you, cause you sleepless nights. Yet you will not give up that child for anything in the world. Why is that? Unconditional love. Something we'll be talking about later. Get to the scenario now where we're doing the right thing, the wrong reasons. When we work, are we working for money? Do you spend all your time in a place you can't stand with people you cannot relate with, all for a paycheck? This is going to build a lot of resistance because every day you go to work, you have to overcome certain hurdles within you. It's an internal conflict. You're in a state of perpetual war. In that state, let's talk about the emotions and what's happening with them. You're releasing adrenaline and cortisol, as Dr. Bello already highlighted. Adrenaline is going to prepare you for fight and flight because you're in a state of fright. Cortisol is going to shut down your immune system. When it then gets depleted, you're open to opportunistic infections. That's Dr. Bello's domain. On the other side, when you actually love what it is that you're doing, you're releasing endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These are the feel-good hormones. That's why you never see any happy, depressed people. But what's happening at the level of the mind, the thought. So notice that with these emotions, we find ourselves in a place of stress and duress. When we resolve the issue, we bounce back. If we do not resolve the issue, then it deteriorates. We go from stress, duress, and distress. We go to a place of suffering where we've just accepted that it's our cross, that's our life, that's the way things were meant to be, and we can't change it, which is a lie. And then we go to anxieties and panic attacks, and ultimately depression. Depression, okay, we're trying to cope just with the mind. It goes into even deeper waters, and we become more and more compromised as we stop doing the things we used to love. But then what is actually happening in the mind? Let's go back to the thought processes and evaluate our thoughts. So see your thoughts as the rungs of a spiritual ladder. Thoughts have got a gradient, a spectrum, like a rainbow, different qualities. There's a low frequency, there's high frequency. Thought is generic. We think different thoughts at all times throughout our lives. Some of them we process, some of them we do not process. It's not everything that you act on. Someone who's autistic is different. They process everything. That's why they're agitated. They're very agitated. Sorry. But what's happening with the thought? So you move from that realm of thinking, which is neutral, to a place of concern. It's an ongoing concern. From there, you can drop to worry. which is a low frequency channel. This is what engenders the hormones that Dr. Ngwa talked about, Dr. Bello talked about. Or you can go to, instead of dropping to worry, you go to a higher state, introspection, where you're checking with yourself. You're checking what you're feeling, why you're feeling what you're feeling. Is it you, or is it your environment that is causing you to feel what you feel? That's the first question. First step of maturity. What is my contribution to this? Then you go to deliberation. That is where you engage someone else. It could be someone who's involved. It could be a neutral third party, because you want to ensure that you're about to act rationally. From deliberation, you go to reflection. You've gathered all the intel and you're making sense of it in a just way, with the focus to make a difference, serve a purpose that is bigger than the self. From deliberations, of course, you go into, or reflection, you go into contemplation. Contemplation, now you are going beyond your awareness, beyond your consciousness, into the subconscious. The subconscious is that vault where every experience you've ever had lives. It lives in that place. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever said, every emotion you've ever felt, every meaning you've ever given to life, it's in there. Sometimes there is this dissonance, disconnect between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Notice those moments where you see someone passing, you know them, and you're trying to recall, what's their name? You forget. The moment they disappear, the name comes. That's what's happened. Conscious mind dissociated from the subconscious, and so you can't remember. Then they walk past, and it comes to you. From there, you go to prayer. This is where you understand that there's a force that is bigger than you. Vitality, that same force that walks in place, that activates, plans, a sense of intelligence. You're surrendering to that force. You're surrendering to a higher power, the force of good. It's a very difficult thing to do, as you and I know. Yet, it is the first step to, or another step to growing true resilience. Not doing it all in your strength, not thinking you have all the answers, seeking help. And then from there, we go into meditation, which is tapping into your superpower. And yes, we all have superpowers. That I can assure you, because I have lived it and I have experienced it. We can't talk about everything today, but all in due course, things will unfold. So doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. When an individual becomes their title, that individual loses their identity. You listened to the introduction, my introduction. I was impressed by it, but that means absolutely nothing. You could be a doctor. You could have 4 doctorate degrees. That describes your journey. It describes your path. It doesn't define you. When you define, or when you depend on this title for your identity, what happens when you show up at the Njingu house where this title is completely irrelevant and immaterial? You will feel inferior and you will start behaving like an imposter, because you would want respect that you do not deserve, because you're not relevant in that particular space. In a hospital, you are extremely relevant. In your place of work, if you're an astrophysicist, you are extremely relevant. You are important in that space. Outside of that space, you become a normal human being. If you can accept and assimilate that, you have got resilience, because you know who you are, and you know that you cannot define yourself by something that you have manifested. You see, because if you manifest something by virtue of the fact that you produced it, it came from you, means it is inferior to who you are. If you can produce it, you're bigger than it. God created us. God is bigger than us. We all flawed. We're all flawed. The ultimate super intelligence is not. And so thoughts, emotions, and then of course actions. Our actions take rise from emotions. I need to really speed things up because we're running out of time. So we can then see that when we suffer, or when we become our title, We suffer from identity crisis, whether we know it, acknowledge it, like it, or not. What is doing the right thing? What is the right thing? So we've looked at different examples of scenarios where we could be doing the right thing for the wrong reasons or the wrong thing for the right reasons. I have got this value system that I use. I outsource my interactions and my relationships to my value system. This value system has got 3 clusters. Each cluster has got 2 pillars at least. So there's unconditional love and judgment. That's the first cluster. Second cluster is we discuss separate topics, no taboo areas. And the last cluster is I hold you accountable. I push for mutual growth, and I take full responsibility for what I think, say, and do. And this is how I live my life. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be my spouse, you could be my kid, you could be my mother, you could be my brother, you could be a sibling, you could be a friend, frenemy, you could be a total stranger, a colleague. Those are the tenets. So this is the gatekeeper. It determines who comes close and who stays away. Unconditional love, no judgment. What is love? Love procreates. So it is all-encompassing. Love co-creates. We come together, we share the same values, and we create a business. That's co-creation. Love gives and it forgives. Forgiving means you're not there to take, you're there to give for justice. And that is your only preoccupation. I've come into this situation. What am I doing to leave it better than I found it? It's not about me. It's not about my rights. No, what about their rights? It's because the only way I can connect with you is if I find the me within you that I love, then we can connect. Most of the time, I tend to find the weaknesses in me within you. I project those weaknesses on you, then I crucify them in you. That's what we do all the time. Unforgiveness is me using you as an excuse to exercise unforgiveness, resentment, and bitterness. That is all that unforgiveness is. 14 minutes, I've got barely 1 minute to go. Then, of course, there is discussing sacred things, no taboo areas. You see, if we can talk about anything and everything, it never really becomes a crisis at any point in time. If we can truly just open up and be frank, before things become a crisis, we would have dealt with them a long time ago, because ultimately we will deal with those things anyway. And the interesting thing is our demons equally live in those areas because they know nobody is coming there. They are safe. So they come out, wreak havoc, then they run into that safe space, knowing you will protect them. Then they take you into a place of isolation and can do with you as they choose, as they feel, knowing they've taken you away from your support system. And of course, holding you accountable. Accountability is very important. If you tell me you're something, I'll call you by that, and I call you by that thing, and I accept you for who you are. And you tell me I'm judging you, and there seems to be a problem. I've accepted you for who you are. Can you accept you for who you are? We'll move on from there. I left this slide for the Q&A, which we may not get to today. But it covers every single thing, the cycle of resilience, the cycle of resistance. So notice we move, it starts with vulnerability. Vulnerability will go to a place of curiosity. Curiosity, we want to be empowered or empowered. We want to empower or be empowered. Then enlightenment, self-actualization, purpose, and the other side, of course, fear, insecurity, anger, and sadness. So when you're dealing, I want to talk about that one for a bit. When you're looking at someone who is angry, an angry person usually is someone who wants to control situations, people, and places and circumstances. When they lose self-control, they project on others. They want to control other people so they feel like they are in control. Sadness, someone is sad all the time. You know, they are more inclined to connection. They want to connect with others. And that's what's primordial or primary or priority to them. Then these people tend to be resistant. They have a lot of resistance, greed. And again, as we said, it is not, as we saw, it is not particularly sustainable. Tend to be stuck in their ways, rebellious, and it's a regression. They go back to vulnerability. Now, I will not spend much time on this particular slide. This is a true story because we're running out of time. Someday we'll come to it. I'll close here. I went through a spiritual bootcamp, and this happened at a time when I had everything I needed, but there was a void on the inside. So I went on this spiritual bootcamp, meditating 10 days, 10 hours a day for 10 days over a 12-day period with about 120 other people. No social media contact, no communication, just you and you. I experienced pain so palpable, you could touch it, you could feel it. I get so drenched dealing with this scenario that I take off my t-shirt, squeeze it, and water literally drip out of it. Beyond that, there was this amazing sensation, contentment, fulfillment, joy, peace that surpassed all understanding, blissful euphoria that was beyond orgasm. In fact, it would make an orgasm feel like pain. So I came to realize that you are not your journey, you are not your circumstances, you are not your pain. External manifestations reflect internal representations. Whatever it is that you experience is coming out of you. Your experiences, the situations, the engagements, they bring out from within you what you carry on the inside. They are just triggers. They tell you who you are, not what the other person is doing to you. You will not go fight a madman, for instance. But if your colleague did to you what a madman did to you, you would retaliate. Why? Just because this other madman is in a suit? Good question. Resilience is a construct of the mind. Have value-driven and interest-based relationships. I could talk about that for an entire day. Resilience is a way of life, not a means to an end. Pick your value system. Don't let it pick you. Thank you. It was amazing listening to you. Sorry. It was amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Coach B. There was a slide in which you were talking of, giving somebody 25K and then not worrying about it. And I did wonder, if you have to deal with members in society like that, are you not breathing a dependence, or you're not breathing an entitlement?
So that's an interesting question. A £25,000 debt that we are not pursuing. So the first thing, think, feel, act, cycle. But before I go to that, there is a verse that says, when you treat those who have treated you unfairly with love and kindness, it is like heaping hot coal, pouring heaps or heaping coals on their heads. That's not your intention. But when you can do that, it brings you peace. I experienced this peace that surpasses all understanding. Meanwhile, it will chastise, convict, rebuke, and hold the person to standards in ways that they themselves could not have understood or fathomed. There's also the consideration, what were their intentions originally? Did they intend to dupe? And even if they did, well, they cannot pay right now. So what? Do you kill yourself? Do you get them put in jail behind bars? They have a family. Now, if something has to happen in their space, it should not be on my account. They have young kids, and I know that they have a good heart. But again, all of this has nothing to do with them. All of this has to do with preserving a certain balance, choosing between money and the God that I serve. And when I get something from my spirit that tells me, go in a certain direction, I do it. And in this case, I found peace. Is it everything that I can understand? Absolutely not. See, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. So there are some things you have to believe in order to see. And for me, this was one of them. So now, I don't just believe, I know. And this is just one of the many things that I know. I know the debt is not forgiven because I've told my friend that I've handed it all. It's all in the hands of the Holy Spirit. And what will be, will be. Meanwhile, we remain friends. Those two things are separate. Thanks for the question, Uncle Val.
The reason why I was interested in that question is because how we treat each other in a social sphere is very important. Because as you all know, we are social beings. We interact with each other. And resilience has got a social connotation to it quite strongly. And I'm going to bring our next panelist who will talk to us about this social aspect of resilience, how we can use our social networks as a buffer and manage our resilient capacity better. And as the wise people always say, while you build financial capital, also build social capital. So today we've got Ms. Evelyn Njingu, who is a senior social worker working at the Luton Borough Council. She is a specialist in care management and court of protection, also with the Prevention of Liberty Safeguards. She's worked for over 15 years and has been supporting people who will be classed as being vulnerable. So I think she stands in the right position to tell us about the social aspect of resilience and how we can use our social networks to build our resilience, either as individual or as a community. Ms. Njingu, the microphone is yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Valley, for that introduction. And I would like to thank everybody who has joined this webinar today, putting aside other important matters to come and hear this talk. So I'm going to be focusing on the social ways of fostering resilience. And what is resilience? Dr. Valley has already given us an idea what resilience is. So most dictionaries define resilience as the ability to cope with stress, trauma, and adversity, and adapt well or bounce back after a difficult situation. So the person cope with adversities in life. So I will focus, as I said, on the social aspects of it. So preparing a person to cope with adversity involves building strong relationships with friends, family, communities, and participating in peer support networks. As these connections, both in person and online, provides emotional support, want a sense of purpose and sense of belonging, and also offer practical assistance during such times. So I will look at perceived social isolation. That's just a fancy name for loneliness. And perceived social isolation has a wide range of negative effects on a person's mental, physical, and emotional health. It's a subjective feeling because it can happen in situations where you even have company. So you could be in a relationship with somebody, but yet you feel very lonely. And you can also be living in a multi-generational household. So you're living with the grandparents, the parents, and the children, and everybody's busy doing their own thing. And somebody within that family just feel like they're left out. That's also another form of loneliness, because it's that person feeling that of loneliness. So as Dr. Bello described before, studies have linked the effects of loneliness to health issues such as cardiovascular problems, weakened immune system, hormonal imbalance, inability to connect with people, and dementia and Alzheimer's disease, especially in older adults. So how do we foster resilience then to help us cope in adverse situations? So one is by building strong support network of family and friends. And when I say strong support network, I mean, it's about the quality of the relationship and not the quantity, because there are people who have 10 friends, but there's none of the friends that they can count on. Or you can have family members, but you can't really confide in any of them, and nobody has your back. So it's about the quality of the relationship, not the quantity. We can also foster that by joining a cultural group, joining an alumni association, professional groups, community support groups, joining a church, or engaging in meaningful social activities such as social clubs or volunteering. So I'll speak about all those points in more detail. So we'll start with joining cultural and identity-based groups. What is a cultural and identity-based group? It's mostly what we call, it's a community-based group which provides a sense of identity and belonging, and it is rooted in shared heritage, shared language, shared beliefs, and shared values. For example, we've got the Asian community, we've got the Caribbean community, we've got Chinese and other nationalities. But for the purpose of this webinar, I'll focus more on Cameroon community. So if you look around the UK and even back home, you can see the concept of country meeting, which is where people from a common background gather. So even people from the Northwest, they have their different country meetings. So people come together, share their experience, share advice, and as a result, their problems are half shared. We also have Njangi groups, where a group of people come together, put money together and give one person, and that person goes on to solve their other financial problems, and it goes around and everybody benefits. That takes off some stress financially from people, particularly people who have projects that they need to realize and they can't afford the capital to do that. So such groups as the Njangi give an opportunity to get money loan free and in time to realize that project. We also have, in terms of the cultural groups, we come together, we do things like Bon House. So if you have somebody who's had a new baby, there's a christening or there's a wedding or they're bereaved, then we'll come together and provide a shoulder for that person or celebrate with them. That sense of community spirit is very important because you kind of have the feeling that you're not alone and you belong to a community that will show up for you in good times and bad times. So another way of fostering resilience is by joining religious or spiritual groups. So for many people, particularly from our ethnic groups, churches and other faith groups provide a strong framework for fostering resilience through spiritual and social support. And they offer a very strong social safety net and often act as a built-in support system that provides both practical assistance and emotional encouragement during a crisis. So in the UK here, we have the Salvation Army, which provides a lot of support to vulnerable people. During the winter months, they go on the streets, they pick homeless people, they house them in a shelter or in a hall, provide them warm meals. They also support people with addiction. We've also got NOAA in Luton. I don't know if it's nationwide, I'm not sure. And people can go there in their facility and have a shower, mostly homeless people, do their laundry, eat something. And that really helps them because we don't know anybody's story and everybody has a story. And it's not for us to judge them, it's for us to give them the tools to be able to cope during those circumstances. So we got Pentecostal churches as well, and there are quite a lot of them around these days. And they offer counseling sessions to people. And what I've realized is a lot of our people tend to go to church when they have a problem. So they go when they want a husband or wife or a child, or for some reason, that's why they go. And it does offer them some hope, some level of hope, knowing that the church is going to help them to overcome that that adversity that they're feeling at that time. So that's another way of giving us the tools to help support during those times. And then we can also, as part of social support, join community groups. And these groups usually are formed around specific challenges or people with shared interest, such as addiction groups. So we know of the Alcohol Anonymous, AA. So you have a group of people that come together, share their experiences, share their struggles, and then that would help them to be able to manage that problem when they are on their own. And you also have trauma groups. Say Macmillan Cancer Group does offer a lot of support to people who have shared health problems. So if you're diagnosed with cancer, the first thing they tell you is you're not alone, and they will signpost you to a support group that would, you'll talk with other people that can help you during that time. And there are also, local authorities have a lot of support groups for new mothers and new fathers as well. So people who are struggling, coping with the birth of a child and the stresses that come with it. And I've got a personal experience of somebody close to me who was a first-time mother, had the baby, and she was really struggling. And she just went online and Googled support groups and found one. And that was a lifesaver for her, because otherwise she could have ended up with postpartum depression. So, and now she's talking to all new mothers, say, this is where you need to go. This is the support that's out there. Even if it's professional support, just talking to somebody makes a difference, because you believe that you're not alone, and there are other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. In our Cameroon community here in the UK, we have a lot of groups. I don't know if people are aware of it. There's a Cameroonians in the UK Facebook group, which has thousands of Cameroonians registered to it. So if you want to connect with people from your background, you can just register on there. They share, you have to join and you have to be accepted. They share a lot of information about everything, about how to navigate the country, about social support, and they link you up with other groups as well. And we have a lot, as foreigners in this country, we are vulnerable by the fact that we've migrated to this country. And you have international students coming to this country, and they need somebody to show them around. You've got carers coming into the country through the certificate of sponsorship, which is the COS for care jobs. It can be very, very stressful to navigate a new system. So there are groups, there are different groups that you can register with. So if you're coming to the country as an international student, universities have, they would buddy you up with somebody from your background so they can show you around the school and around the town and all of that. The other people who are coming from work, like the COS, they have to find, they don't get it easy if they don't know anybody in the country and they haven't got family and friends support. So it is it's very important to be able to join like the Facebook group, the Cameroonians in the UK Facebook group, or other occasions. I would like to touch on, there's an organization in the UK called CAS UK. I don't know, I stumbled on it by accident. I think it was sent on one of our forums, and I did register on there. And I would advise, I'm not, the disclaimer, I don't have any shares in that group. So I'm just a member. So it is important to join the group, in the sense that when a member of the group is bereaved, each member pays £2 towards the to the organization, and they have a 15,000 bundle that they give to the bereaved family. And if you can you imagine somebody being bereaved and the financial burden, just the burden of losing a loved one, that can take a toll on somebody's mental health. So having that money can go a long way. At the end of this presentation, I would put in some email contacts. So if you're interested, you can just go on their website and have a read and see. So I said that to say it's very important. It's up to you which group you want to identify with, but just know there's so many groups out there that can help you when you are struggling. So another type of social support is alumni organizations and professional networks. Coming from Cameroon, we know there are so many secondary schools and we have so many ex-student groups in this country. And I do know that a lot of them come have their monthly meetings. There are a lot of professionals in those groups. And what they do is they offer practical support and they offer networking and provide a space where fellow ex-students can offer valuable advice and mentorship and job opportunities. And this is very important if you're in an unemployment, if you're unemployed or you're thinking of transitioning, changing careers, you can link with the ex-student groups and there are people there who can help you. There's also the CamDoc who are making a huge impact to the Cameroon diaspora and Cameroonian back at home. So thank you, CamDoc, for organizing this webinar. And I do recall that during the COVID period, there was a lot of things that support that CamDoc gave to, in terms of practical support and advice, both to people back home and for us Cameroonians here in the UK. And they keep doing that by organizing this webinar. So if you, after this webinar, you feel like you need any help with CamDoc, I'm sure the moderator will put up how you can contact them. And all of these help us feel that sense of belonging, that sense of strength, because as BK Maimo said, strength is in the mind. So when you feel that you have support out there, automatically you feel that you can take the bulls by the horns. And the last social method of building resilience is joining an online social network. We know that the internet is a virtual space for everything. And it also provides resources on how to cope with adversity and offers connections that transcends geographical backgrounds. And these online communities can also help overcome physical isolation, because there's a lot of people who don't have the confidence to go out and date. They prefer to have somebody online that they can talk to. And that makes a difference in terms of their overall well-being, because they know they are not alone. And the internet also offers a space where you can receive anonymous support and discuss sensitive issues without being judged. You have the Samaritans in the UK, for example, which is a suicide line. So if you're feeling down and you're on the edge, you can call them. It's anonymous and they would help you. We also have the Alcohol Anonymous, as I said. But we also have to keep in mind that the internet is a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of negative things that goes on the internet. So if you're joining a social network online, you have to do your due diligence and make sure that you're not being catfished or you're not being scammed, because that would provide more stress to you than what you expected. So just to round up, I would say a good social network must make us feel safe and secure to be vulnerable to ask for help, because you cannot pretend that you don't need the help. Meanwhile, deep down, you know that you need the help. So that space should give us that security that, yes, this is where we are and we need help. Just like BK said, he got frozen. His presentations just decided to misbehave at a very crucial time. And he said he wasn't ashamed of that. That is resilience, owning it up. And then everybody knows that it can happen to anybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. And a healthy social network should have clear boundaries as well, which respects people's personal limits and not become a source of emotional drain. Because they have some people who are like revolving doors. They just come in to sap the life out of you because they know that you're strong enough to offer that support. It should be a two-way thing, social networks, where members feel a mutual sense of obligation and willingness to give and to receive. So you cannot just be receiving and receiving. You have to receive, get those tools, build on it so you can help the next person, or you can even help the person who helped you in a different way. So it's a two-way thing. And I cannot overemphasize the staying connected with your family and friends and colleagues. People have made great relationships with their colleagues that have lasted for a lifetime. So staying connected with family, friends, colleagues, the wider community is very, very important for people's mental well-being, for keeping our mental well-being in check. If you don't hear from somebody, reach out, call them, send a message to them. So it's not a one-sided thing. And during such moments, you would find that that can help somebody out of a very dark place that they were. And as Dr. Ngwa said, using the tools above can help us improve our physical and mental health. It can also boost our self-esteem and provide a sense of purpose. Because what causes depression is that lack of purpose. So you're just sitting there, you don't have nothing to look forward to. And that can take you in very, very dark places. So when you have this sense of purpose, you're able to get up in the morning, you go volunteer. If you're retired or if you cannot work, you can just go out, offer somebody a smile on the street and walk back to your house. That's a sense of purpose for that day for some people. We are living in a society with a lot of challenges, and it is essential to develop the skills to be able to deal with stress. And the local authorities function differently. So when you are in a situation where you feel you're struggling, just pick up the phone and call your local authorities customer service and explain what you need them to help you with. They would signpost you to different organizations that you weren't even aware of, and they will be able to help you. So you're never on your own. So it is important for us as Cameroonians to help each other, to stick by each other, and to spread the message back home as well. I know back home, there's a lot of socializing because everybody, it's not as rigid as the system here. So, but we also can reach out to people back home who are bereaved, who are struggling, and that will help as well. I think that brings me to the end of this presentation for today. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much for another brilliant presentation. I do appreciate your time and effort. And I think you brought out quite a lot of interesting points on there. I'm quite happy when you said it is a two-way thing where you give and take. Because ever too often we're seeing people who would like to take and not be able to give. And you don't build a social network like that. And you did mention perceived social isolation as well, which is something that has actually got a lot of research interest. I think I can remember there was a paper published in 2021, which looked at people's isolation, what they call the isolation index, where they'll ask you 5 questions. If you got a partner or a husband or a companion, and then they'll ask you, do you have any organization that you can call upon if you have any need? Do you belong to a church organization? Do you belong to a social group? Have you got any family members that you can call upon? If you answer no in 4 or 5 of them, you seem to be having a very high level of perceived social isolation. And the research shows that your chance of dying with any disease goes up to about 26%, which means therefore that there's a biology that is actually enshrined in some of these social things as well. And I'm so happy that you brought justice to this. Now, you did mention, and I'm glad you said that as well, that it is not the quantity of the people around you. You can be lonely in a room or full of people. It is the quality. So I'm going to ask you a question, therefore. Where is the place of leadership in these social groupings to make sure that each member or majority of the members are conforming to the etiquette of being in a social group?
Yeah, we do know that every group needs a leader for that group to function. And every member of that group should be part of the team. People have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. So a good leader should be able to identify what the strengths of the members and what the weaknesses are and deal with them in light of that. In the process of that, we know that in every group, there is a troublemaker, what they call a troublemaker. So the leader should be able to identify that person or those people and work with them rather than against them. Because the moment you feel like this person is, somebody can ask an innocent question and there's never a stupid question. And they say, oh, there she goes again, or there he goes again. And a good leader should be able to support those people and work with them rather than just cast them out as troublemakers. And also encourage people to contribute to the group in terms of their strength. Some people are good in counseling, in giving advice, while other people are good in offering practical support. So leadership, it's not just about the head, it's about the whole team offering whatever values they can bring to one another. That's how I look at it.
Thank you so much. I do agree with you on that. Now, I've got a question from one of our attendees. He says, what do you have to say to someone who thinks all groups have many problems? The more you join, the more stress you are exposed to. One way to stay sane is not to join these different social groups.
I think you have to join a group for the right reasons. There's a lot of groups out there where people just go to be noticed. So if I'm joining, I just found out there's a Cameroon Nurses and Midwives Association in the UK. That's a professional group. So if you're joining that group, you know the reason why you're joining. If you're joining a group to talk about Premier League, that's a whole different story. You would have confrontation, everybody has their opinion, same with politics and religion. So you need to know why you're joining that group, and you need to stick to the reason why you're there. You can be in a group and there are arguments in the group and you don't contribute to it, and you just take what you need from the group as well. I also found out there's a Cameroon Chamber of Commerce, UK Cameroon Chamber of Commerce group in the UK. It's a professional group. And what they do is they support people who want to open a business. If you need advice on opening a business back home or doing container business, whatever advice you need with regards to commerce, anything to do with business, they are there to support you. I'll put the email, and I only found that by research as well. So a lot of people are not aware that these groups are out there. So pick the group that works for you. Avoid the ones that bring up your blood pressure, as Dr. Bello said. So pick your battles is what I would say.
Thank you so much. And I quite right now, as an elderly care physician, I also always ask people, what do you think the two commonest causes of death are? And you will hear things like heart attacks and cancers and diabetes, but people don't realize that social isolation is a very high, it's a leading cause of death, particularly in people above a certain age. And that's something we should avoid. And one thing, when people, as I've said at the beginning of this webinar, resilience could be in different categories. Some people could actually be resilient in one aspect. So they got their financial resilience, they got their physical resilience, but they're struggling from the social resilience until something happens. Then they realize that actually that lack of social connections is something who would have buffered them in that difficult time when they met that trauma. So it's just a saying that all of us should do as much as possible to make sure that we're a respectable member of whatever social group we belong to, because we might need them one day or the other. I've got some questions for you, Dr. Bello. The first is, what do you think about vaccination in adults who when need arises as a means to boost physical resilience?
Okay, I mean, what I can say is vaccination in adults is very important, whether it's catching up on the ones that you didn't have as a child. I frequently see at the surgery, a lot of people are not up to date with their MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. But it's also, yes, important for maintaining health and resilience. So vaccines like flu, pneumococcus, your tetanus boosters, your shingles vaccine, and COVID vaccines, they do reduce your vulnerability to serious infections. So that would then help you stay stronger and more productive. So yes, adult vaccination definitely has a role when the need arises, but it's tailored to age, risk factors, and any comorbidities that you have.
Yeah, thank you. And there's another one as well. I think that this came at the beginning of your talk before Ms. Njingu had a talk, but you said, thank you for great presentation. You mentioned nutrition, exercise, chronic disease management, and screening as key pillars. Do you think including other lifestyle areas like sleep, stress, or social connections could make resilience strategies even stronger?
Definitely, and I think Evelyn has already answered a bit about the social connections, so I won't talk much about that. But other lifestyle areas such as quality of sleep and effective stress management are really vital pillars of resilience. We know that poor sleep or high stress can can weaken immunity and increase the risk of disease. And we know that, as Evelyn said, social support networks can buffer against stress and promote well-being. So it's all a package, right? Integrating all of that can be very helpful. Fun fact, those of us that have our Apple Watches and things like that, you know, if you sleep very well, your body sort of recovers and you feel sort of rested. You know, imagine when you've had 2 hours or 3 hours sleep or 7 hours sleep, that is not very restful. My watch today told me that my sleep was 72, so it's not very good. Maybe I was worried about today's webinar, but feeling a bit tired now, but really important because if I have another bad sleep like that, I'll probably be in a bad mood tomorrow. And then you know, you have all those negative sort of stresses and things like that. So sleep is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that actually research which shows that shift workers, or people who work shift, like do night shifts and stuff, they are more exposed to having chronic diseases, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's another question for you as well. How will you counsel a relative who refuses cancer screening despite being eligible because they are terrified?
So for someone who is very terrified of cancer screening, I would definitely say that the first step really is to listen and acknowledge their fear. Don't say, oh, what's wrong with you? Don't you know cancer is such a bad thing? You know, why wouldn't you want to be screened for it? So acknowledge that their fear is very real. Then if you can, sort of gently provide clear information, if you're aware of this, about what the test involves, address any misconceptions that they may have, emphasize the benefits, which are probably mostly life-saving, you know, and tell them that, okay, if they have this appointment with someone, go to the hospital, go to your GP with a trusted friend or relative, talk to the process with the GPs or any healthcare professional beforehand, and that can make it very less daunting. So yes, that's, you know, non-judgmental, listen, and then obviously offer to go with them if you can.
Thank you very much. I think that's about the questions we got so far. The few comments here from Dr. Gaka. November is Male Cancer Month, suggesting that men should consider asking for a PSA. And October is Female Cancer Screening Month. I take it that is in Cameroon, Dr. Ngaka. So October is Female Cancer Screening Month in Cameroon, and November is Male Cancer Screening Month in Cameroon for prostate cancer as well. Yeah, that said, I mean, we were supposed to end at 7:30. We're already at 7:41, so we're running almost 10, 11 minutes late. I do apologize for that. But I think we've been able to touch on the 3 main aspects we wanted to talk about on resilience today: the physical aspect, psychological, spiritual aspect, and the social aspect. As we have seen, resilience actually is multifactorial. There are many factors involved, and that involves both the individual, the community, and the social. It is difficult to think that as an individual, we can manage all aspects of our resilience capacity. So it's always good to foster relationships in our community and our society so that we be able to beef up that, that resilience. And as we've seen, those factors are interrelated. You don't have to have a diabetic diagnosis to be very unwell. It could just be the fact that you're living in a stressful environment. You could be living in an environment where there is no potable water or electricity, or an environment where there's high degrees of racism and discrimination. And that could just be the thing that puts persistent stress, and that could lead to early onset of non-communicable diseases and early death. So it's quite important that we try and optimize some of these factors, both as individual and in our various communities and societies. That said, it's we're coming to the end of our webinar at the moment, and I want to make a few announcements before we round up. As you all know, we have a mentorship webinar that we tend to run at the last Sunday of the month. So that'll be coming on the 28th, and that will be hosted by my my big brother, Dr. Asad Koko. And our next webinar on this 25th webinar will be coming at the end of October or early November. We'll let you know. You have a date from us. Can I, at this point in time, then thank my co-moderators, Dr. Anambene and Dr. Marfo Foma. I want to thank the panelists, Dr. Linda Bello, Mr. BK Maimo, Ms. Evelyn Njingu, for your very stellar presentations and for taking the time to answer the questions. We're hoping that we will get a bit, sorry, before I forget, there is a survey on the chat forum. Please, can you kindly fill up our survey so we have an idea what you think we can do to improve these webinars? And if you have any topic that you want us to talk about, please do include it in the survey as well. As you would agree with me, we can never do justice to resilience in one webinar. So it is therefore quite clear that we should be coming up with a part 2 of this same webinar sometime in the future, which we will take other aspects of it, like financial resilience, and bring some of our financial experts to talk about those with us. With that being said, can I thank everybody in the audience who spent their Saturday evening with us today? We do appreciate your time. Without you, we would not be able to do this. Please give us a feedback. Let us know what we're doing and how we can improve in what we're doing. And also visit our website, www.CamDocUK.org, and make some suggestions for us. Also, this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded onto our website and onto our YouTube site. So you can always send that to your close ones to watch whenever it's necessary. And that said, it now remains for me to say thank you very much and God bless.